Hello friends, we are having the pleasurable acquaintances with the characters of the 14th century England, and that in the document the Canterbury Tales and the prologue to it written by Geoffrey Chaucer. Geoffrey Chaucer can rightly and must rightly be called the representative poet because he presents England that existed in the 14th century, the age when people in the pleasurable weather of April did not undertake picnics, but they did pilgrimages. So, in this pleasant weather, when everyone has been pricked in their hearts to continue with something that can bring them spiritual gains, in such a weather are there 29 pilgrims of sundry kind, of different kind, that gathered in the Tabard to move forward and seek spiritual gains from St. Thomas Becket, the holy martyr whose shrine was there at Canterbury. Now these pilgrims that have gathered here, and until now the description of whom Chaucer has given, they are distortions of a very mild kind. The knight has been fighting for the faith, but he is also, with all his venery, his love for truth and honor and chivalry, he also loves courtesy. That is a mild deviation from the various knights that existed in that age. There is the nun who is charitable, who would weep if someone was in misery, but she is also given to courtly manners. She takes every counterfeit cheer to acquire the manners of the court. And there is the monk. Of course, he is the monk by virtue of his manly appearance, his very strong appearance, but that from the court, instead of the church, he is more given in to hunting and riding and hunting, and for which purpose he has fine horses and his dainty horses in his stables, and he loves a fat swan for a roast. Also there is the friar who has the power of confession, and while he listens to the confessions made by the people, he ought not to look at their faces, so that he doesn't carry a tint against their wrongdoings. But this one takes every care to single out the person who has come and made the confession, and then with all his beautiful singing and his singing of the yeddings, he is able to extract out even from a widow the last farthing that she might be having. So this was the church which Chaucer wanted to portray in his Canterbury Tales. Also, he wanted to speak about the society that was compounded of the squire, the ploughman, the merchant, the cook, the guildsperson, the haberdasher, carpenter, weaver and dyer, and the cook and the merchant and the shipman. So all these people came from different walks. slightly with their small deviations, with deft in their craft, but with a deviation. But there should be good people in. The good knight is an appropriate character there. But then there is the clerk of Oxford, for him whom whatever money that he had, he spent on Aristotle and his philosophy, on the books of Aristotle and the philosophy. Also, he has that intent to gladly learn and to gladly teach, and who was all the time wanting to do something for the benefit of those who gave him money wherewith to study. So he's a good person, but outshining all of them is the person who has been presented in the image of Christ with his staff in his hand, with his first routing the gospel of Christ and the 12 apostles, and who has the guiding principle in life, that is, if gold rusts, what shall iron do? So he sits at home, looks after his fold, and sees that none of his parishioners is taken astray by temptation, the wolf of temptation. This is what Chaucer expected from church. But then, the characters who drove Chaucer maybe to write down this document are these who are absolutely misfits and scoundrels. So here, Chaucer's humour takes a bent from the course of humour to satire, very pungent satire. So we see the character who might have caused Chaucer to think this way, and that is the summoner. The summoner is the person who in love days are the days when the church has to decide the cases that could not be decided by the courts. So this summoner serves summons to the people. A summoner was there with us in that place that had a fire red cherubim's face. So his face was like the angel. Cherubs are angels. You must have seen the pictures of cherubs. They've got rosy cheeks. So this man had rosy cheeks. Chaucer has used no adjective for the summoner. No worthy, no good man. He simply calls him a summoner that had a fire red. Now, his cheeks should be, if he is a cherub, he should have pink cheeks. But this one has fire red face because sauce-flame he was. Sauce-flame is knobby pimples. So there are knobby, with thick knob-like structures. There are the pimples sitting on his cheek. And so big they were that his eyes had become narrow. Narrow eyes will always speak about the person being a thorough drunkard. As hot he was and lecherous as a sparrow. And the adjective that Chaucer wants to ascribe to this man is that he is hot and he is lecherous. A churchman being lecherous? For whom the parson has said that if shame it is if a priest take keep a shitten shepherd and a clean sheep. So this is a dirty shepherd. How would he keep the people? And this is one of the orders of the church. He was as hot and lecherous as a sparrow. Sparrows sleep with open eyes at night. That means even in their sleep, they are prone to being excited. With scaled brows, black and piled beard. Look at the appearance that signifies his being a thorough scoundrel is that he has got scaled brows, patchy. There is the skin deposition. They are patched and a piled beard, a beard from which hair were falling out. He did not have a regular beard. The, the, the beard was losing hair. Of his visage children were afeard, and he looked so odious that children were afraid of him. See the irony. Chaucer uses the word cherub, and then cherubs are those figures who even a child is attracted towards because they appear so divine, so angelic. But this man with his with his red face and his pointed pimples that are protruding out on the skin, he causes even the children to be afraid of him. There was no quicksilver. So there was no mercury, no lytarge. Lytarge is lead oxide. Brymstoon is borax, is another chemical, and borax and cerusse, no oil of tartar known, no ointment that would cleanse and bite, that him might help of the Welker's white. So there was no chemical, no treatment available, neither a mercury, nor lead oxide, no sulfur, no borax, no white lead, and no oil of tartar, and no ointment at all that could cleanse away the Welker's white, the big white ends that sat on the pimples that he had on his cheek. Nothing. So he must have definitely told Chaucer, when Chaucer asked him that how is it that you have come to have this, he might have definitely mentioned that I have used this, everything, and yet I have not been able to be cleansed of this, nor of the knobs sitting on his cheeks. So not only the white heads, but also the knobs, the knotty structures that were sitting on his cheeks. Why? Because well loved he garlic, onions, and also leeks. Now these are the vegetables growing underground, and which they are the roots, and they are supposed to be very they secrete oil, and they are generally used with non-vegetarian diets, and which should be restricted when one is coming to have sufferings like the white welks and the pimples and the knobs that sit on the face. So he well loved them, despite the fact he was using medicines to apply on the skin, but inside he was devouring these things which were actually exciting the growth of these. So well loved he garlic, onion, and leeks. And for to drink strong wine, red as blood. And with this he consumed red wine, something that would excite the a tendency to grow these. And when he had drunk that blood red wine, then would he speak and cry as he were wood. And he would be so much drunk that he would cry and speak as he were mad. Wood is mad. And when that he had well drunk at the wine, then would he speak no word but Latin. Now you can very well see that if you have any idea of the drunkards, you would know that when they are drunk beyond control, then they start speaking rubbish. So this man is also fond of speaking rubbish, and the rubbish is what? Latin. Why Latin? Because Latin is the language which he has been hearing in the course of the trials in the church, because Latin is the language of law. So then he would speak only Latin. And what Latin? Not the whole of it. A few terms had he, 2 or 3, that he had learnt out of some decree. So he would speak out only 2 or 3 terms. They were a repetitive exercise, and he would scream. And the screaming was of a kind that made him to look completely mad. No wonder is he. No wonder is he heard it all the day. So how could he learn this Latin? Because he was all the time listening to this language only. And also you know well how that a J can call what as well as can the Pope. So you all know. Then Chaucer gives a very beautiful parallel. He says that a Pope also is, when he hears that someone has done this wrong, he screams, "What? You did this? What? What?" But this what can also be repeated by J. J is a bird that repeats, that can produce human sounds. So if a J does it, and if a Pope does it, how does that make the Pope any better if he is all the time screaming what? So अगर ये बोलता है लैटिन, चीखता चिल्लाता है, अगर ये कुछ 3-4 शब्द बोलता है तो इसकी कोई गुणवत्ता नहीं है. This man is no use. For one thing, he has been listening these words. वो सुनता ही रहता है. और फिर शराब सिर पे चढ़ने के बाद में सिर्फ वही निकलती है उसके मुंह से जो कि उसने सुन रखी होती है लैटिन. So this is this. But whoso could in another thing him grope, then had he spent all his philosophy. And if he was able to get hold of someone while he was drunk, then he would spend out all his philosophy, the learning. Spending out the philosophy here is a ridicule. Philosophy is something, an insight of learning. This man has no insight. He has been hearing it. So by virtue of the rote memory, he is able to only blurt out what he had been hearing, and he spends out all his philosophy. And what would he scream? A quaestio quid juri, would he cry. So quaestio quid juri is a Latin expression which means, oh, the question is what law implies. Now, people should be saying, but then the question is what law implies in such a case. So this is what he had been hearing, and this is what he was screaming like a jay repetitively. He was a gentle harlot and a kynde. And now Chaucer cannot contain himself. He actually comes to define him and says that he is a gentle harlot. Harlot is a scoundrel, rascal. But he appeared kind. A better fellow should men not find. So no one would be able to find a man better than this, because he would suffer for a quarter of wine, a good fellow to have his concubine 12 months. So if someone gave him a quarter of wine, then he would allow that man who should be punished to keep a concubine. Concubine is a woman outside marriage, a woman with which a man has illegal relationships out of marriage. So he would allow a man to live with his concubine for 12 months and excuse him at full. And privily a finch also could he pull. And he would excuse the man fully. He would not serve the summons if he was allowed to take hold of the finch, of the woman, also for himself. So this clearly shows the image of the deteriorated, a completely degenerate church, and which was not reflected on all the characters of the time. The scholar of theology, this clerk of Oxford, is a unstained man, given only to learning and teaching. The parson is the person who would not collect this, but would give out of his own substance. And here is this man who, when he has to serve the summons, thinks it better to extract profit instead of bringing them to the church. And if he found somewhere a good fellow, he would teach him to have none awe in such case of the archdeacon's curse. So how would he frighten the people if he found someone, a good fellow? A good fellow is someone who is soft-hearted despite having done a misdeed. Then to him he would, in such a case, he would frighten him of the archdeacon's curse. Archdeacon is a kind of hell. Is the keeper of the hell, who takes a person to great misery and suffering. So if he found a gentleman, a man who had unwarily done a misdeed, then him he would frighten of the archdeacon's curse. But if a man's soul were in his purse, for in his purse he should punished be. The same thing as the friar did. The friar used to tell people that some men are there so hard at heart they might not weep, though they may smart. So what they should do, they should give silver to the instead of praying and fasting, they should give silver to the friar. His was limited to the extent of extracting silver from the people. But this one, when he is fully sure and is fully aware that this man ought to be put to punishment or a penance of a kind, then he said that let you be punished in your purse, because purse, that is money, is the archdeacon's hell. So he should be punished only in the purse. Purse is the archdeacon's hell, said he. And he justified his word by saying that you are able to do evil because you've got a fat purse. So the evil is being generated in the purse. So if you empty it, there would be no evil left. Let this evil come and be stationed with the summoner. But well I woot he lied right indeed, of cursing ought each guilty man him did dread. So he should dread the people, he should make the people aware and be afraid of committing evil, for curse would slay right as a sailing saveth. So this summoner used to tell to the people that curse would kill, slay is kill, just as a sailing is prayers, will save. He should have said this. He did not do that. And he should have also aware him of a significavit. Significavit is the order issued by the court to be present before the church. Issued by the church to be present there and plead their case. No, he would hide that. Endanger he at his own guise the young girls of the diocese. So he had rid the girls who were in danger, the girls who might have committed adultery or some other kind of crime. He was great help to them. Now you should be knowing what would be the cost he would extract from the girl. If he is not letting the men go out from his grip, how would he let the girls go out? And knew their counsel and was all their rede. So he would become their counsel, he would counsel those girls and be their escort, their assistants. A garland had he set upon his head. So much given is he to lechery that he wears a garland on his head. And how did he look like when he had put this on? As great as it were for an ale stake. Ale stake is taverns, the roadside inns where people used to go out and be on a spree. So his appearance was like an ale stake. Because these ale stakes are constructed outside the city. People in the town do not drink it openly. The one who has to do this mischief needed to go out of the town somewhere in a desolate place. And how would they identify where the tavern was? The taverns used to be lighted with something, where how they why in a way that they were visible to the people even from a distance. So this summoner has made his appearance significant by wearing a garland on his head. So he gave the appearance of an ale stake. He looked like a moving tavern. He looked like a moving place of shame and guilt. A buckler had he made him of a cake, and he couldn't stop consuming creamy things, so he has also brought a cake with him, and this he is carrying as a shield with him. This is the summoner is a character who is cheating the people, and he is also cheating the church. The church orders him to serve summons, and which he hides and takes advantage of the people to whom these summons should be served. So, this man is guilty to the world and in the church also. And still he enjoys a rightful position because he appropriates all evil in the name of church. He represents an order that Chaucer is extremely disgusted with. He doesn't approve of the ways of this pardoner. That's why there is no adjective used for him but that he is hot and lecherous and a gentle harlot and a stupid man and a wicked man who threatens people with the archdeacon's curse, who threatens people with the significant wit for his own personal profit. Thank you. That's all for today.